I was touch and go there for a few seconds. Wasn't sure if I was doing everything right. Touch and go there. Oh, this is not together. Hold on one sec. I wasn't doing everything right. I did not do everything right. Done it all horribly, horribly wrong. I've screwed up everything. Right out of the gate. Happy Wednesday. Was it February 1st? February 1st. Jesus fucking Christ. I gotta turn this off. This is very distracting. February 1st, 2023. We're already out of January. Like 2023 is already on its way out. Let me. Cheers. You can tell from this camera, it's Blackmagic 6K, as opposed to this camera, which is Blackmagic 4K. There's no freaking difference at all between any of them. They look the same. And I'm back to the Coke. Yeah. Back to the Coke. A lot of the changes I've made over the summer into winter, I might have backslid a bit in a few of those. So, not really sorry, but I am a little sorry. It's that thing where, like, I'll let anything stop me. You know what I mean? Like, I'll find an excuse not to. If there's something I don't want to do, I'm doing it. Like the slightest little thing that gets in my way, the slightest roadblock, the tiniest, I can't even call it a hurdle. Gets in my way, oh, can't do that, I guess, you know. My elbow hurts. Oh gosh, I really can't do like free weights anymore. Because it really does something to my elbow. It gets my elbow hurting. Oh gosh, I get like a little bit of a low sugar feeling if I don't have my Coke. So the Coke is back. Pretty good justifying. I think, and look at this. Like, this is horrible. Thank you, winter. Thank you. Thank you, scarves and, oh my God. I'm just realizing that right now. It was, the high yesterday was 60 degrees and it snowed last night for the first snow of winter. For me, where I am in Northern Virginia / DC. Let's just say DC. Right? Anyway, it's been a while. A lot of stuff happened in the last couple of months. Almost all of the newsworthy stuff was bad. Some of it was freaking horrible. Absolutely terrifying, but, nothing surprising, really. I could just feel like the world is on a loop. We're just on a fucking loop, and we're stuck in it. And it's very, very difficult to break out of it. Good night. All right, let me say hi before we start talking about stuff. I got a list. Of stuff. And I got several. Oh, you're going to love this one. You ready for this? Ready?
There goes that dream.
Fucking heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Barry Keegan in Banshees of Inisherin. Let's hit it once more.
There goes that dream.
My God, you could see look at it. You could see his heartbreak. What's that meme? Oh, well, it's The Simpsons. It's literally The Simpsons. You could see the moment when Lisa breaks, I choose you, dude's heart. Just right about...
There goes that dream.
Right about there. Oh, the look down and like the lip. He got nominated. He's going to win. And as if on cue, a helicopter. Excellent. Good evening, Ava. Wow, I have not seen Ava in a long time. It's been a long time. Hey, Katerina and Stacy. And Jeff. And Amy and Nasha. Oh, God. Indigo's here. Oh, no. It's all gone. It's all gone to hell. Actually, I like the PFP. Indigo. You always have a good one. Thumbnail is incredible. How can you say that? How can you say that this thumbnail was created by the king of the YouTube? So, you know, if you don't like it, well, I don't want to get into it yet. Hold on. I've heard him say in interviews that if your video, he has said, and this is like a quote, if your video doesn't do well, it's because it's not good. He says, whenever you talk about the algorithm, replace the algorithm with audience. As if there's no such thing as selective or niche content, right? Like as if the only thing that gauges the quality of something is the number of views that it gets. Anyway, that's not what I'm going to go into something else. Let me go through this. Holofox. Hey, Juan. No, it's not cursed. It's not cursed. Oh my gosh, Miz is here. We got mods all over the place. So many mods. Y'all better behave. Better behave. Got a lot of mods and they're ban happy. They always have been. Miz, I'd love to get some kind of update from you. All right, no, actually forget it. Small rodent. I'm prepping my Daniel Plainview. So, you know, gotta do it. And whatever, man. I like it. So, spin. Lisa, hey Lisa, how are you doing? It's been a while since I've seen you too. Okay, get down through here. Warp Raven, good evening, Warp Raven. And Maddie, wow, I feel like this is the group. These are the people. Stacy said it best. Me? Oh, okay. You just made a weird pipey. Now I'm gonna shave the thing. I'm not gonna shave it. I'm gonna let the rest of my hair catch up to it. See, sorry, it was doing something neater earlier. My hair, that is. Now it's no longer doing this neat thing that it was doing. was all kind of tangled in the front. But it looked curated, but it was just natural. It's just the way it was. Just sometimes the stars align and your hair looks better than it usually does. Hey, Interstellar Sea Cow. It's good to see you. Oh, Lisa, you have an elbow thing. No, I wasn't kidding. Like, I really do. Like, it's fucking horrible. I tried to rest it. I'm resting it for a couple weeks and just has not gotten better. And some of you, a select few of you might remember the scooter incident, summer of 2021. Yeah, summer of 2021. I had a scooter incident where I'm pretty sure I fractured a couple of ribs, but I definitely did something to this wrist. Like, I really screwed up this wrist, so much so now that I cannot do palm push-ups. Like, I can't do regular push-ups. I have to do fist push-ups or grip push-ups. If I do it like this, after just about 5 of them, it feels like my wrist is about to... It's the same thing. This is now coming up on 2 years ago. So I have little confidence that it will get better. And the elbow thing, let's talk about everything about me that is degrading over time. The elbow thing is on the arm where I had the grafted, you see right here? I had the grafted tendons from when I was but a wee lad. I severed the tendons of these 2 fingers. So I've always had like a little bit of a problem with extension on this arm. And it sort of stretches the tendons here. And that kind of feels like where it is. Like it's in the tendons or maybe the bone. Maybe some bone cancer in there. I shouldn't joke about bone cancer. But, anyway. That was my first anyway. 14 minutes in. It took me 14 minutes and 21 seconds to do it anyway. Oh. No, you know what makes my eyes pop? Well, I guess I can't show you what makes my eyes pop. An underlight, 1, or if I boost this LUT. If I boost the LUT, but then I can't just boost the LUT. I have to compensate when I boost the LUT. Actually, I'm kind of like the boosted LUT. It's a little too fake looking, right? That looks silly. Looks like I'm a cartoon character. That's overdone. Let me just pull it back a little bit. If I do the LUT and then raise the gamma, now we're getting into like crazy grading territory. And there you go. It makes my eyes look blue almost. My eyes are not blue. Never have been. That's one thing that I saw. It says some. I gotta get out of this. Cannot. I'll just bring this down a little bit. Actually, I do want to bring the gamma up a little bit, though, don't I? Seems like a little better, just for it to just lift the darks a little bit. But that's one thing I wanted to touch on was, deep fakes seem to be talk of the town. People talking about nerfs. Nerfs are incredibly cool, right? It's so everything has a double-edged sword, right? There's a lot of technology being developed right now and being put to rather unsavory applications. The technology itself is not inherently evil nor good, and I feel like I'm making a fucking Second Amendment argument when I say that. I want to smack myself. But NVIDIA has a pretty interesting tech demo on iLock, essentially. So within a certain threshold, if I'm looking there, if I'm looking here, if I'm kind of looking around like that, you can put on eye lock and in real time essentially deep fakes your eyes to be on the looking at the lens. So you could have an iPad off cam. You don't need a teleprompter anymore, essentially, is what I see the use of that as being, as all those teleprompters. The hardware solution I invested in order to get over that problem, which I now don't really care about anyway, was solved through software, like everything is. Every $6,000 80s analog synthesizer is now emulated. Every amplifier, got those frequency responses, IR cabs, all software. It's all done in software now. Some of the best audio, Universal Audio just makes these amazing software plugins, and they're next level. They require sometimes additional shark chips. Almost boring shit I'm talking about right now. The point is, there's a lot of things that used to have to be done in hardware. And you can pretty much count that they're going to be moving towards software. And that's separate from the deepfake conversation. Let me put a pin in that and go through. Bobby, yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. Don't know. Let me get down here. Oh, Jeff, if you were talking about that clip, that is Barry Keoghan from Banshees of Inisherin. He was also was he the Joker he was the Joker at the very end of Justice League. No, I'm sorry. The new Batman, the Robert Pattinson Batman. Hey, Mari, it's good to see you. Stacy, Google is your friend. Well, this is the hope. One lives in hope. I have a lot set up for it. I just don't feel very motivated these days. I just don't, man. I don't know what to do. I can't inject. Maybe with TRT. I can get some TRT so the motivation would come back. Motivation would come back. Hair would go away. Is that a bargain I want to make? Or I could do TRT and minoxidil. Right? TRT, minoxidil lowers testosterone. And then I just feel I don't want to be speedballing stuff. I'm on medications already. All of this will be doing something with the anxiety medication. And of course I'm going to get on Ozempic. Got to get on Ozempic not because I really want to lose weight, but it's the thing to do. Apparently. Mindy Kaling did it. Now we all have to do it. You don't really have a choice. I'm sorry. We're being forced to go on the Ozempic diet. Apparently very effective. I have very close friends who are doing it, who I will not name. People I know who have been very successful with that. And even that is like I don't know what the effects of that are going to be 10, 15 years down the road, but it's got to be pissing off some of the people who got lipo, a decade ago or even a few years ago, right? I'm kind of still in the process of saying hi. Yeah, Jeff, I hear that. Yeah, but it bothers me that that's an issue. So because it was so long ago, like it's just never gonna get better. Well, fortunately, it has not really affected that, right? Although I have been slacking for various reasons. I've been traveling a bit, and like I said, like the slightest speed bump, the slightest hindrance to my routine, and I'll use this as an excuse not to do stuff, and trying to get back on the horse. The pull-up horse. But yeah, the number of pull-ups I could do was not super inspiring. And what got to me about that was like, it's only been like a month that I haven't been doing it. And I mean, I was doing it for a while before. It just seems like, come on, man, couldn't that have stuck around a little bit longer? Like, is that it? That's all we get? Hey, Alan, good to see you. How are you doing? Not sure what to better refer to, but thank you. Oh, less gamma. Oh, see, I'm too far behind now. I don't know. I've got lots of thoughts about this. I had written well, this is GPT-2, but even like the original, right? Fuck, I don't want to go into it. Lisa, yeah, exactly, right? No, this is just a rash from a wool scarf that I really like. I wore it in the last one of these I did. But it doesn't like me. Let me put that down here too. Super professional. Don't do homework, Maddie. Fucking homework? Are people still going to school? World's ending. Let's just fucking don't train for a future. Oh, damn. Warp Raven. Raw technology. A 3D printer that uses LiDAR. So you can scan stuff with your phone, I'm assuming, and then get it to reproduce what you scanned. Nerfs are incredible. I'm just blown up. Like, I don't know where this is going to go. Like, I had some thought experiments, right? Like I said, like my work involves AI and machine learning, and it also involves discovery around it and applications of it. So have had sessions and just sort of my own thinking about like, where are nerfs going to be applied? Like, what does that technology do? Right? It already seems like so long ago when we were talking about the Roombas collecting the maps of your apartment and combining that with Hellfire missiles to be able to take anybody out in the United States with a combination of Roomba data, Hellfire missiles, and the Patriot Act. Like, that already feels dated and just like, well, yeah, of course you can do that, but you also know you can do all this other shit. It also feels like really dated now whenever I see like a Boston Dynamics robot video. It's like, man, you're automating things that kind of look like dogs. Like, anything that's not, it almost seems like anything that's not neural network based is archaic in a way, because I feel like we're building hardware for things that we don't necessarily know are even going to require hardware in 5 or 10 years. So, Katerina, I'm sorry. It was good to have you here. I hope you have a good night. And I hope your team meeting goes well. Scary. Those are always scary. I've had I don't know how much I can talk about this, but there have been staff reductions at my work. And in tech, right, been upwards of 250,000 layoffs since November of 2022. It's It's frightening. It's frightening. Considering the boom that existed in 2022 and 2021 and the rash of overhiring and over-indexing on things that, again, we're like over-indexing. Everybody's just like, gets super excited about a thing. And when you have visionaries who lack vision, literally the eponymous part of their title. Can you be a visionary if you lack vision? Technically, I guess apparently you can. Or I guess having a vision doesn't really say anything about the quality or applicability or future-facing truth of said vision, right? Anyway, yeah, so that's honestly like it's just another thing towards my point. Visionaries of what I want to talk about tonight. So I'm making notes as I think this through about the main topic that I wanted to talk about. That essentially comes down to, like, if we had to TLDR what I think I'm going to talk about, assuming I don't get super sidetracked, which is also incredibly likely. It would be something like, let's see, how could I winnow this down to a sentence? Your personal experience means nothing. I think that's very broad because I'm trying to keep it to a sentence. There's a lot. I think it's probably the most succinct way I can think of to express it is, do not put any, or be very wary of putting credence in personal experience. And we have like we live in a society where experience is valued. And it in part creates these problems. I'll get into it more in a minute. I'm not saying there's a good point here. There is a point. It may not be a great point, but it is here. I'm not sure. I'm way too behind, right? I'm too behind. Okay, I got to go down and catch up. Otherwise, I'm just never gonna. Oh, Maddie. Of course you're leaving. Maddie, you always leave. Stay no longer next time. It's not true. You won't. Oh, hey, KJ. I didn't say hi to you. Yeah, I've heard this, Lisa. But I tried to look up like shortages of it, and it didn't seem like that was an issue yet. It will be, or they want to sort of avoid the issue, it from becoming an issue. Yeah, thanks, baby. Okay, let me get further down here. Shauna Lika's channel. Well, I don't have a problem playing guitar. I will never, like, I don't care how much pain that caused me. It does kind of, especially like the way, your arm kind of droops over the guitar, right? So. Oh, how long did it take me to bring out a guitar? 30 minutes to bring out the guitar. It's not really in tune, but it's close, so. Probably will I get a know if I'll get a hit for that. So if I do that for a while, it does start to ache. Sorry, it's up there. In a way that it didn't ache before. But that's not my chief issue. Playing guitar has not yet become a problem. And whatever, Andre Segovia was playing until his 80s. Torrega played till he was as old as he got. Yeah, and I follow some of the synth tech. I don't know if you can see. Whoops. Some Moog back there. And I have an Arturia Mini Freak. And then, of course, but again, this is also hardware, right? Where software is taking over that stuff. Oh, hey, Olivia. Good to see you. Come down to the bottom here before Wait, Staff I know you left already, Katerina, but staff reduction at your kindergarten, how is that related to people getting pregnant all over the place? I'm not clear. Java Chris, hi. I really like your profile pic, and yeah, the ideas guy, right? And I have trouble sometimes, right? Like I have trouble knowing if I'm like deifying certain people who don't deserve it. And it just seems like the more life goes on, the more the curtain gets pulled back and I see the wizard. And he's not impressive. No, I'm not saying that, Stacy. I'll get into this in a minute. I just want to be sure I'm all the way down here. Yeah, see? Say the word guitar, and then that's what you get. Now That I'm a Man Full Grown by Jack Rose. It sounds familiar. I recently watched a few videos from Ren. I forget his last name. Canadian guitar player, singer-songwriter. Pretty interesting stuff. Right. He's pretty good. I don't know he's going to make like a playlist or anything, but he is good. Peep Knox. Wow. I've not seen you either in a while. Well, I mean, I'm being hyperbolic when I say that, right? Like, but certainly, like, if people are good at a particular thing, like, there's always that question, right? When let's say you're talking about research or development, right? You're talking about innovation or lab work or any R&D discovery work, right? The idea of like, even in like the early aughts, right? The idea of a focus group was really valued, right? You got a focus group and it was like, well, the focus group said this, the focus group said that. I've run many focus groups in my time. And this was obviously like, early days of like data-driven content where people hadn't, and I know that there's a much broader market than the tech market when it comes to this kind of thing, but at first it seemed, or at least 20, 30 years ago, more than that. Oh my gosh. Q. It's so good to see you, Q. I'm happy. It made me happy to see you pop up there. And call me Mustache Man. So the research, it took a while for there to be research on research when it came to this sort of work. And that is a field that's evolving as quickly as the work that it does, which means that it's always a little bit behind. And if you're employing traditional research methods, hey, a new 742. Good to see you too. Hey, Mari. Well, now what am I supposed to say? Yeah, I feel like we'd be better off going into everything feeling ignorant. But having said that, right, like it is really confusing, right? Because you do have, if I could get back to, hold on, I'm getting a text here. I need to. Oh my gosh. First of all, right before I went live, or maybe 20 minutes before I went live, yeah, I'm going on a tangent here. 20 minutes before I went live, I was talking to my son, my precious young 8-year-old child. And we've been lately like talking on Discord, right? Like he wanted to have a more direct line. I don't live with him, right? He lives with his mother. I see him on weekends or during the week sometimes. But man, he got mad at me. Look at this. I don't know what he was talking about. Someone somehow stole your messages. Told him I was going to talk smack about Mr. Beast. Oh, he got mad. I didn't show you what happened. I think that Mr. Least got a pretty good burn. Pretty good dad burn, right? On a person he looks up to. He's really into like oversimplified videos for wars. He's very into wars. So I was quizzing him on Napoleon, but man, he did not like that. I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk shit about I'm not going to talk shit about Mr. Beast for the reason that people think I'm going to. It's a slightly motivationally adjacent reason. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say Mr. Breast to my 8-year-old son. It's not going to happen. Imogen Harmon, that's adorable. Nico Trash, oh my gosh. Y'all are coming out of the woodwork. Anyway, so you have people like, and people shit talk visionaries, right? Like Steve Jobs, right? As not being that visionary or not really being, the whole kind of like that moment from, was it Steve Jobs or Jobs? Steve Jobs. Which was the Fassbender one? Which was the Aaron Sorkin one? There was one of those that was good and one of those that was not good. Neko Trash. Today is the day I say Neko right. I do now, yeah. That's the way that we're doing it until it becomes an issue. He has a channel. He really wants me to direct people over to it. And I'm really resisting that. We don't allow him to have comments enabled. But he He makes videos. I love him. Of course I love him. But anyway, so when we're talking about research again, right? Like Steve Jobs would probably, I'm not saying he didn't do research, and the Walter Isaacson biography seemed like he was a little bit inconsistent in how he would value research until it didn't go the way that he thought it should go. And then he valued his own instincts, before that. And there are a few things that I totally agree with him on. I still think that, although as an option it's pretty good, but it seems like it is the main focus now. Like the ability to do whatever you need to do on your phone with one hand was great, and that's gone. Right? Can't do that anymore. Certainly not with any of the Max phones, and not even really with the standard phones. The new sort of reintroduced minis, you kind of can. From a physical design standpoint, never would have stood for the notch that the 10 introduced. Never would have stood for that. I think it's ridiculous. And now, with the 14 Plus, they've turned it into a dynamic island, right? They've literally turned this physical flaw, they're lampshading it. They're turning this physical flaw into a thing that purportedly is supposed to be a feature now. So cannot call a flaw a feature and just magically have it become beautiful design. It's not. It's not. I still think iPhones are. I could not tell you how happy I was when, with the iPhone 12, I think, they went back to the flat bezels. That they stopped with the 5. It's like what happened to cars in the 90s, right? Every car became smooth and round, and there was no acute or near acute angles on anything. And why not? That stuff is more interesting and more appealing, in my opinion. As much hate as I have for Elon Musk and whatever, I think at least the Cybertruck looks interesting. Hey, Lexi, good to see you. Are you and Jeff in this, like, watching? We're on different phones or something? Is that how that works? I do wonder about that stuff. Did I just turn something down that I shouldn't? It's important to ask questions. It's important to be humble. And I don't think angular cars are ugly. I think angular cars are beautiful. I think cars from the 60s way more beautiful than the sort of generic aerodynamic. And I understand that, like, there's a lot of reasons for those designs to happen. I'm just talking about from an aesthetic point of view. But we need to keep stuff open. Yeah, Lexi, the flat screens, the flat bezels, when the phones became like these kind of like capsules, it's really annoying. Lexi's at a dance. Jeff's doing dishes. That's awesome. Oh, good night, Warp Raven. Thank you for hanging out. Oh, you're going surfing. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Hope you have fun. But did you have to dry your hands? But let's keep our minds open, because you never know, right? Like, the world is full of wonder, and you never know when something like this might just totally surprise you.
They all have an effect on gravity. We know that it has an effect on
100%.
Yeah, we know it has an effect on the tides, right?
Yep.
That's a big part. Isn't that a big part of the tides? Is the gravity that comes from the moon? I mean, think about how much fucking water we're talking
That's
about.
a lot.
Right? That is
Here's a
kind of
weird
great.
question.
Is that real though?
Is that real?
Weird. Though,
I need to
'cause
know that if that's real. Is that what causes the tides?
I don't think so.
A little.
A little bit. The moon causes the tides a little bit. It's like part way responsible. The rest of it is my brain is like half off at this point. I've been worrying about neuroplasticity. A lot of things have changed. I would have preferred, Jeff, had you finished your thought with the original verb. Disposed Joe Rogan. It's weird, man. Like, I don't like the guy, right? He seems to take pride in ignorance. He does at least fact check, but it's so bizarre to me that he has like the largest podcast in the world, and he will just kind of be on there and be like talking about simple concepts and need to just Google it right then. Let's Google this real quick. Wait a minute. The moon causes that there's no way that's right. You know how much water there is in the world? And the moon, it's only like about that big. There's no way it could be causing the tides. Can somebody look that up? Jamie, bring that up. I understand you got to take a fair portion of your day in ice baths. Doesn't leave a lot of time for research, I suppose. But if that was your livelihood and you had that big of an audience, wouldn't you put more into it? And it's great that he can just kind of like naturally wing it, and great, good for him. Good for him. I'm not a fan of Lex Friedman either, but at least Lex Friedman does a fair amount of research on his guests before he talks to them. Generally, I don't know about across the board. Let's see, are we talking about cars again? Well, I was just kind of talking about there seemed to be this general physical design tendency to like want things to be smooth. Everything has to be smooth. And we had the ability to do that. I think it was a fairly recent ability to do that in a cost-effective manner. And cars became single pieces, instead of the number of panels that they used to have. Trims became less prominent. What else happened? Like they're essentially, I can remember this happening, like even in the 90s. You started to see like cars that were the same from different manufacturers, and they'd just be slightly different, So they were using the same base for a bunch of different cars, changing the frills, essentially. I guess you'd say. I see somebody talking about neuroplasticity. Stacy? Well, yeah, I mean, it atrophies as you age, like everything does. And it's a sort of a self-perpetuating fear. Oh, Amy, yeah, you may be right. You may be right. Now, do you think that was an instigating factor, or that was reflecting what was already happening? When your son is watching? I think my son might be watching. I don't know. He probably would have lost interest in the first minute. Because I didn't immediately talk about Mr. Beast. Yeah, no, we're at 19 viewers. No, Stacy, I mean, I'm really referring to myself. Sorry. That was terrible of me. I apologize. It's interesting. Yeah, this is like when you talk about visionary stuff, like what the Imagineers, people who were hired as consultants for sci-fi movies, like what they got right versus what they got wrong. They got the iPad right. They predicted the iPad right up. Clamshell phones. They couldn't have gone further than that. Oh, Nico. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you... Oh, shit. Actually, this could be a problem. I got this.
Like, I don't know if that thing that they just did with the COVID is, like, panned out or not. But if it did, that's, like, somebody should probably be looking into that.
Where is my more than what we think we deserve? It's been a while. There was a big update to Ecamm, and a lot of stuff changed. They actually fixed a lot of the horrible user experience in one go. But as a result of that, a lot of stuff is no longer where it was. And this is really like my first live stream with it. So a lot of stuff has moved. And I don't know where Where is my McConaughey? I've got this, which is arguably just as good.
Is there anything more fundamental than pain? Love.
Come on. Love. Talk about pain.
I know your pain. I know you.
Is there anything more fundamental than pain? Love.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially
down here with all of this. Oh my, there's a traffic jam.
Oh, you know what? When it's busy with new people constantly, it's not too bad. But when it's slow and you're by yourself, it kind of gets a little boring sometimes.
Speaking of geniuses, speaking of visionaries. Hey, Karen. I know, I think I say your name incorrectly too. And happy birthday, Stacy. Okay, so, Amy, let's do this because I have thoughts. I did not love The Last of Us episode 3. I said it. I didn't love it. I liked it. Thought it was fine. Didn't love it. I'm not sure how it's being it's like I've seen some pretty hyperbolic statements about it being the greatest single episode of any show that HBO has ever aired, and I really can't. I mean, I understand like it's the same person who did Chernobyl, right? But any episode of Chernobyl trumped that. Well, so first of all, here's what did I not like about episode 3? Remember, you're talking to the same person who didn't really like Nope, Wasn't really a fan of Nope. Now, I maintain that I understood Nope, and I knew what Nope was going for. But it just didn't do it for me. Like, what am I supposed to do? I didn't really like Banshees of Inisherin. In spite of this.
There goes that dream.
How could I not love any movie with that? And I love Martin McDonagh. Like, on paper, and that movie was a slow burn, and it was weird, and it was bizarre, and it was character driven. And I still didn't love it. So why didn't I like, or why didn't I love, because I liked it, why didn't I love episode 3 of The Last of Us? I should probably start out by saying that I haven't loved Last of Us, period. Ms., did I watch the menu? I watched the menu, and I thought it was fantastic. Like, and that's something where I'm sort of, I went into the menu thinking how many permutations of The Most Dangerous Game can we possibly have in media? Do I need to hear this story again? Do I need to watch this story again? But no, they got it. They did it. And I think they did a fantastic job. And Ray Fiennes. And by the way, fucking Julian Sands? What, all of the terrible... I'm not going to mention, like, there are some real tremendous tragedies that happened over the past couple of months, right? The past month, particularly. Mass shootings every day this year. Police brutality. Police murder. Terry Nichols. Like, just fucking... some pretty horrible stuff, right? And yet not surprising, right? Like, that is exactly the point. Like, that is just like a, oh, fuck. Did this really happen again? Of course it fucking happened again. It's going to keep happening. It's going to happen again and again and again. I never would have thought, it never would have been on my bingo card that Julian Sands would. I mean, has he been pronounced dead? Like, I don't know. Doesn't look good. Like, I mean, there's no way. There's just no way. He's been gone for a month. Goes hiking. Does not come back. Julian Sands. If you've ever watched a Merchant Ivory movie, if you've ever seen A Room with a View, if you watched Leaving Las Vegas, he's been in some other more recent stuff, but I wasn't really privy to. Been rough. But yes, so the menu, and Julian Sands popped into my head because he looks like Ray Fiennes to me. Right. Ralph. Yeah. Julian Sands. At one point, in my opinion, the most beautiful human. Yeah, Naked Lunch, exactly, yeah. Boxing Helena. Right? Fucking, And he wasn't that old. But he was certainly old enough that, like, it's not, you don't go missing for a month and generally get found. Yes, Alan. The Warlock, he did so much. He had such a striking face. And he was the Eastern European pimp from Leaving Las Vegas. He was great at that, like, just being a complete bastard. Fuck. Yeah, right, Lisa? Like, and if you haven't heard any, like, it's just nothing. There's no way. There's no way. Like, he's not, what is he? He has to be dead. Like, I just don't see any realistic scenario where he's found at this point alive. Is he going to survive on, is he going to kill cougars? Right? Like, how would that work? Anyway, Last of Us episode 3. Why didn't I love it? Well, one, I was predisposed not to like it, I think, because it was a bottle episode, in the vein of like Scar, which is sort of my go-to. I don't like bottle episodes when there is a overarching narrative arc. And to me, they are pretty forgivable when you have 30 episodes in a season. But Last of Us is going to be, what, 8 episodes? Something like that? I mean, yeah. Yeah, so I was already kind of like, okay, this is a... And yes, I know that they were significant characters in the game, and I don't really care about the game as far as it pertains to the show. Like, I'm not like, oh, it wasn't like the game. I don't care about that. I do care about moving a character-driven plot forward. And I think I probably would have loved this as a thing that had nothing to do with The Last of Us. Right? It's just like, here is this very well told story, tragic story, set in this environment, and there you go. I was not, to me, also like the Nick Offerman was great, like, because he's great. I did not, I don't know, I'm going to seem like I'm going off on this without, I'm doing a Joe Rogan here. Let me check my facts on the moon first. And let me use my super loud keyboard. I mean, apparently I'm the only person in the world. This is what comes up when you search it. Gut-wrenching masterpiece. Greatest piece of television ever produced by HBO. It's not. It's not. Maybe I'm just reacting to that. Maybe I'm reacting to the reaction to it. So, and I didn't think Murray Bartlett was great. I thought he was okay. I thought Nick Offerman was great. I thought Murray Bartlett's acting was a little bit weird, and the way that he introduced himself felt a little bit weird to me. It felt off, like if that situation actually happened, Nick Offerman would have been more circumspect. So to me, like, they didn't like explore. There was no like sort of tentative. Like, he fell in the hole, and then got him out of the hole, and then instantly they were thick as thieves. I just felt like there should have been a little more push and pull there, and I didn't really feel that. And mostly, like, I don't feel like that was conveyed through Murray Bartlett's character. And also, whatever, I wanted more Joel and Ellie, I guess. It made me want, it made me want Tess. It made me want them to veer, and they didn't do this, but it made me want them to veer from the game script a little more by not having Tess die when she did. It's a little spoilery. I'm talking about spoilers now, aren't I? Maybe I shouldn't. So, I don't know what this says. The transition, like medium matters. The medium matters. And it's possible that, when you come from a genre or a medium where, say, nuanced storytelling isn't de rigueur, it is the exception. And so when you have a game that does it well, it might be lauded as, oh my God, this story is just fucking incredible. When really it's just like, no, this story is fine. It's not the greatest story. It's just fine. But the fact that you were expecting trash because this is a game means that your expectations are really what it's your subjective sort of view of it that makes it so fantastic. Well, I mean, Last of Us it means getting great reviews, right? And it's getting numbers, and it got renewed for a second season. Anyway, that was my hot take on episode 3. But yeah, I loved the menu. Thought it was great. And I love Red Dwarf, Stacy. So let's get into like what I wanted to talk about with Mr. Beast. I feel like I'm operating in molasses a bit today. Yeah, Papers, Please was great. There is a lot of, in games, there tends to be a lot of prompting, a lot of the exact kind of emotional prompting that you're referring to here. It's like you don't want a player to miss anything, and so you end up highlighting everything, which is the same as highlighting nothing. Oh man, Nasha. So I only actually recently finished the last season of Atlanta. I don't understand the relatively tepid response that the last season got. Thought it was great. Really, really enjoyed that show. Sorry it's over. That show launched. Everybody in that show is a star now. I mean, some of them were obviously stars already, right? But yeah, Atlanta, fantastic. So, Mr. Beast did a video, as he does, where he either gave a lot of money away or did a thing involving high-priced stuff and kind of reported on it, right? And in this case, for this video, he cured the blindness of 1,000 people. So they weren't really blind. They had severe glaucoma to the point they were legally blind, right? Which is different. So in most of these cases, the procedure by which you can see again is short. It takes a few minutes to do. Get a lens replaced and the cloudy lens removed, and bam, you can see again. Oh, I really liked Fleabag also. Really liked Fleabag. Mr. Robot, I liked the first season. Kind of lost interest after that. Another star-making turn, though. Although the Queen movie was just, oh my God, that killed me. So the video is basically him going around and, you've seen the videos before Mr. Beast did it, where it's like, this child is going to see for the first time. They've been blind since birth, and now let's watch them see for the first time. And it's quite emotional. They get overwhelmed because of the sort of the sensoria that goes on. So he did that to 1,000 people. A large number of them. They weren't really specific about how many of them were in the United States. He made a point of saying that, a lot of people in places where, third world countries or countries where they didn't have access to this kind of surgery. He wanted to do it there too. So he did that. So he took 1,000 people and gave them an operation that would give them their sight back. And some of them he gave one of them a Tesla also. He gave one of them $10,000, or maybe a couple of them $10,000. It's not the point. So there was backlash. One, because yes, the thumbnail is fucking awful. So many reasons why, this is not. That's not a good thumbnail, man. I know you have 130 million subscribers, right? And I know that you have done a shitload of research on your own, sort of figuring out what the most clickable thumbnails are. And this may be, in fact, be an incredibly clickable thumbnail. But that doesn't mean it's not awful. It's fucking awful. Why does this kid have Swarovski crystals on his face? And the tears are so fake and bizarre. Frankly, Mr. Beast's, Jimmy's expression here is pretty weird. The hand on the shoulder, weird. The operating theater door propped open there, weird. So a lot of weird stuff in the thumbnail. Okay. The video itself, Mr. Beast does stuff like this all the time, right? He'll go into an impoverished neighborhood, and one time he took what used to be a bank, or a building that was a bank that closed down, and he reopened it as the Mr. Beast Bank or whatever. And he was just handing out money, right, to people that came in. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with it? Why is it a problem? As you say here, Nasha, right? If your motives behind donating money is to make you look better, does it take away from the good thing? Is the good thing less good? No. No, the good thing is not less good. It says something about you. It doesn't really say anything about the thing. I'm not sitting here trying to argue that curing 1,000 people's blindness is not an objectively good thing. I think the point that I was trying to make, and there was a backlash, not just for the thumbnail, but also for the sort of slightly messianic way in which it was just overall presented, where it is okay, I'm healing you, right? It's a good ego boost, right? But like you said, right? Either way, the people now can see, right? Is it exploitative? Yeah, it's really exploitative. It is absolutely exploiting the inability of these people to get a simple procedure done so that they can see. It's also illustrative. And so it's like ping pong, back and forth. It's illustrative in that it totally is, and to his credit, right, he tweeted something that was akin to, like, I don't understand why such a simple procedure, like, why are these people blind? Right? Why? And I feel like he was like right on the edge of making that connection and making that click to shit, man. Like, healthcare in the U.S. is pretty fucked up. Maybe he did, right? Maybe he did, but that didn't seem to be the point. It was not the point of the video, and he could have made it the point of the video. The point of the video was absolutely not healthcare in the U.S. and in other countries is horrible. It's so horrible that the only way these people can get this operation done is for me to do it. There is something very insidious, and this is why when you talk about like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or anything where billionaires, or like if they're not doing it for, even if they're not doing it like for in public facing fashions, there are lots of reasons for people in the top 0.001% to do things that result in good outcomes for people. And it's not taking away from those good outcomes. Those good outcomes are good outcomes regardless of what caused them. But the fact that these people existed in the first place for Jimmy to find and then do this procedure on, that's a fucking problem. That's the problem. And it would have been great if that video had been aimed at exposing that to people who weren't looking for it. Because if you're looking for it, you find it. But let's be fair, right? Mr. Beast has 130 million subscribers. A lot of the people who watch Mr. Beast are young kids. My son idolizes the guy, right? He's not thinking about the fucked up circumstances that need to exist systemically for this to be an opportunity for super consumable content. Yeah, I think this is, yeah. But I'm not saying it like, Nasha, you're saying this a few times. I'm not saying that. Let him have an ego. I don't care about that. See, here's where I disagree. Like, no, you need to spell it out. You absolutely need to spell it out. And there was a backlash against him, and his response was this, which to me is internalizing and making something personal that is really an indictment of a system which you are leveraging to create your content. Right? So that's my issue here is, one, he got defensive instead of being reflective here. And I think it was like a moment where he could have been reflective about it and been like, well, why are people upset? I don't understand why people would be upset at me when I did this wonderful thing. The dude's super smart. Like, I don't think for 1 second he wouldn't be able to do a little bit of introspection and realize, I mean, it was spelled out for him, certainly, by a whole hell of a lot of people, right? Why this felt exploitative and the underlying issues that it exposed. And instead of, and this is why, like, you know, it just doesn't matter. Like, having that amount of power consolidated, and you cannot count on a benevolent ruler. Like, that's not the way that we should be operating here, right? Whether we're a capitalist democracy or whatever it is, right? We don't, you can't just say like, well, but our billionaires do good things, so it's okay that they exist. They shouldn't exist. Bryant Mitchell, I'm totally in agreement, although I think it should have been more than that. Like, I feel like he had an opportunity to do more than that. Maybe he wasn't allowed to, right? Like, maybe the money to do that video had strings attached, and he was somehow forced to not make it political. And that's just super unfortunate then in that case. I feel like a write your congressman card at the end really wouldn't have been enough. I think he should have been asking the question sort of throughout the video. But yeah, he gave this operation to 1,000 people who, most of them, you know, probably had he not done it, they would not have had the money to do that operation. Right? When all else fails, quote Monty Python. That's my that is my go-to as well. And this does tie in. Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. This is a separate topic. Separate topic. Am I done with Mr. Beast? Is he gonna see this? There's a good chance. There's a really good chance he's gonna watch this whole video, I think. When you look for success in YouTube live stream video making, you look for Beyond the Double Red Doors. Stacy has a question. Go for it, Stacy. Yeah, let's do it. While you ask your question, I'll play the scene from Children of a Lesser God.
I heard every word, God damn it. I translated for myself. It went from your hands into my brain and out my mouth. And you know what? I think you're lying. I don't think that you think being deaf is so goddamn wonderful. I think that you're scared to death to try. I think that it is nothing but stupid pride that is keeping you from speaking right. You want to be on your own. You don't want to be pitied. Then you learn to read my lips and use that little mouth of yours for something besides showing me that you're better than hearing girls in bed. Read my lips. What am I saying? What am I... Man, you want to talk to me? Then you learn my language. Did you understand that? Of course you did. You've probably been reading lips for years, but that's the great control game, isn't it? I'm the controller. What a fucking joke. Now, come on. Speak to me. Speak. Speak to me.
Fucking brutal. Died recently also. He was a piece of shit. Apparently. Stacy, I mean, where's the question? No, the well, I mean, you got to see the movie or the play to sort of get the context for why he was being like that. I mean, he was clearly wrong. Well, I mean, of course, Stacy. I mean, you've been waiting for 4 months. I mean, all you got to do, all you got to do is send an email in, and let's talk about what you want to talk about. Can you talk now? Let's do it now. That is the email address. Now, I have to caveat this with the fact that I have not done this in a while. I have no idea what the interview window is going to be like when it comes up or what has changed. And yeah, I'll have to hear you through. Yeah. Just send me an email to that address and I will send you a link. You just click the link and you can call in. That's already different. Shit. Where's my interview window? Where's my interview window? Good Lord. There used to be a... Here we go. Oh, set to off. Why would it have been set to off? Okay. So did you email Stacy? I'll check and see if you did. Oh, shit. Maybe not. I may not be able to do this. Because the email address, I can't access that email address right now. Let's see if I can do it on my phone. Riveting. It's riveting stuff. Well, here's what, I guess I don't have to do this through email. What I need is basically you need to just copy paste that link. Just copy paste that link and we can cut out the middleman. Well, Stacy's going to call in, so we're going to see if we can get that to work. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but whatever you want. We can talk about whatever you would like to talk about. We can talk about AI and GPT-3. What did you miss, Jeff? You missed some Mr. Beast talk. Well, no, it doesn't work that way, Pivy. You can do it, but it does not work that way. Ecamm will stop it from flooding my screen. But you might successfully block out Stacy. No, Stacy, you just paste it into your browser window. That's the address. How's that going? Silly. He's like one of the biggest YouTubers. Yeah, I mean, he is silly. I don't know. Like, he's a fascinating character. Watch some of his early videos when he was still in high school. And he made a lot of predictions and like sort of laid out what his strategy was. And he seemed pretty with it. And he surpassed his own already like sort of lofty, like almost anyone else. You watch that early video and you'd be like, yeah. Sure. Like he says he's going to have 1 million subscribers in 5 years. Sure, you're going to have 1 million subscribers, kid. Yeah. Keep trying. Keep dreaming. Dream the dream. I think at the time he ended up posting, he had like 50 or 60 million. But no, my point with him, Jeff, was just that I just feel like he missed an opportunity there to underscore an important political issue. And he didn't do it. But that's, it's dangerous to do that. He would probably lose half his audience, lose his sponsors. Maybe he doesn't care about that. Maybe he thinks that the way the world should work is that people should amass a whole lot of money and those people should then decide when and where they're going to disperse it. Seems dystopian to me. How's it going, Stacy? Oh, Stacy has called in. Stacy is in the green room. So, okay, what do we have to do here? See if I can get this to work. It will take me a moment, and then we'll give it a shot. I have to take off one of these so that I can hear her. All right, let's try it. Everybody, please welcome Stacy. Stacy,
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. No, I can hear you. Or
Okay.
Perfect. Well,
Perfect.
could you say just like test a couple times?
Test.
Okay, perfect. Hopefully there's not echo. If so, this ended up going really cleanly.
Okay.
How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing okay. Oh my goodness, it's like 2 a.m. here.
Where are you?
I'm in the UK.
Like
England, near Birmingham.
Okay, so yeah, I could not place your accent. I mean, I knew obviously it was
Oh, really?
English, but yeah.
Boring. It's a boring accent.
No, I'm a fan. I'm like an Anglophile, so I like that kind of stuff. Oh, good night, Ms.
Okay.
Thank you for coming by. So how have you been? I really appreciated the 12 Days of Christmas artwork that you did. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Yeah, that was a neat idea that I thought I would do, and I wasn't sure how it would be received because of the style and everything, but I think it seemed that everybody liked it as well. Everybody in the Discord as well enjoyed it, so which is good.
So what did you have something that you wanted to talk about, or did you just want to?
Okay. Well, I did have a question. If I might ask a question.
Yeah, of course.
As I keep asking questions. Okay, so you have to bear with me of how I word this, because I'm not quite sure how to word it, and of course it is the middle of the night for me, so you just have to bear with me. So My question is, we've been talking a lot about journals. I know on previous streams talking a lot about journaling, and one of my question is, do you look at your videos on both this channel and also your other channel, and are you able to kind of think of them as journal entries? Because obviously they are kind of like video diaries in a sense, because of course there's a motive behind why you choose what you choose to do and your motive at that particular time, and you have been doing it for a little while. I mean, would you say that's a fair assessment, or would you say that's not correct?
I think that's probably let me think back for a second. I think that's probably largely true for live streams, right? Like regardless of if they're on this channel or the other channel, right? Like, yeah, and I will sometimes go back and look at them insofar as I can, as much as I can. Excuse me. I don't generally like doing that, but if I do, it will usually, well, actually, no, usually if I go back and look at a video, there's usually a pretty specific reason. Like I'm looking to duplicate a visual style or something that I did, and I'm like, well, how did I, trying to figure something out like that. In videos where there's like role plays, there's not much reason for me to go back and look at those for any sort of journaling perspective. But when I'm doing the more kind of off the cuff, rambly stuff that tends to be a little more topical and in more relating to my life, then yeah, like there's definitely, yeah, I guess I could view them as journal entries. I do occasionally like look back and I'm like, oh man, it's been 7 years since this video, or 8 years since this video, and see how things have changed. Although I'm usually looking at that from like a very superficial kind of way, like how have I physically changed, or how have my views on like a particular topic changed. And then I'm always like looking at how the technology has changed, right? Like how the picture quality that we have here right now live is better than the picture quality that I had 6 or 7 years ago, recorded and uploaded, which is pretty what hold on, Pivy Pivy's heckling. At this point, Pivy, you are heckling. I'm trying to answer the question. I'm trying to answer it fully. But so is that what you mean? Like, am I able to like go back and look at them as one does a journal, or do they sort of scratch the same itch? Is that?
So I suppose for illustrative purposes, I suppose the way that I would probably sort of think of it as, so I have written journals over the years, and I keep them and I look back at them from time to time, and I read them like from 20 years ago, and things that were important then, I clearly wrote them down, as you do, but I look back and think, wow, I thought that was important, when actually in the grand scheme of things, now that I've gotten older, I've looked back and think, well, that was silly, like why did I think that was important when it wasn't? That's not to say everything I wrote down wasn't important, because it clearly was at the time. But so I suppose where I'm going with the question is whether you look at some of your videos and you think, why did I do that? Now, I know that you have spoken previously about removing some videos you weren't happy with, or that went in a different direction, so you decided that you weren't happy. And I know you've also commented that you're only really happy with only a few videos on the Phoenician Sailor channel that you can say that you're truly happy with yourself as the creator. I don't know whether or not that whether that sheds any light on how you further answer that question.
So, I guess if the video is still up in public, then I'm probably being a little bit facetious when I say like I'm not happy with it, right? There are probably only 3 or 4 videos that I can think of that I would say that I'm like have some pride in, I suppose. Which is maybe that's the same thing as being, I guess a little different than being happy with, right? It would be hard, like with journaling, obviously you can just kind of open to a page and the stuff that's there is very, very idiosyncratic and personal to you, and you're not doing it in any sort of public way. Hopefully your siblings aren't peeking at it or whatever, right? Like the expectation is nobody but you sees it. So in that way, like it's the stuff that I do here is nowhere near as personal as a journal would be, and also difficult to navigate. Like I don't want to, like especially on this channel, right? Like sometimes it'll be 2 or 3 hours. I don't really want to kind of like, I couldn't stand like listening through one of those myself, to try and glean like, well, what have I learned or how have I changed? I don't think I could do that. But sometimes when I do go back to the ones where it's like, okay, well, I want to see how, I want to use this as a reference, because like a lot of times you get this kind of, it's hard to be objective, right? Like, and even though this is almost 90 of these, right? And number 89, after every one, I will look back on it and be like, well, that was just too dark, or that was too bright, or this was, the color was odd, right? Like, how could I have looked at that and thought that it was okay, right? So I like to have like visual references when I'm setting things up. So I'll do that sometimes by looking at older videos that haven't aged poorly in my eyes, strictly from a visual perspective, right? And when I do that, sometimes I'll just like jump to the middle of the video and I'll be saying something and I'll be like, oh my gosh, yes, I remember, like I was talking about this because of this thing that was going on in my life at that time. But it's an oblique reference, or I don't necessarily call it out as autobiographical. There are probably things in videos that I'm pretending are not autobiographical that are, and vice versa, right? Things that I will maybe say are happening to me, and maybe they're not, right? This format is a little different and probably a little more true. Yeah, it definitely is like more true to sort of who I am, but there is still like a level of abstraction and things that I won't say, or things that I will say that maybe in IRL I wouldn't, right? So I don't know. I kept journals for a long time, and then I just stopped. Like I don't know how old I was when I stopped. I want to say like near 30, and I just completely stopped. So I don't have that, and I don't even know where most of those journals are. Like I know where a few of them are, but I don't have the ability to make a kind of one-on-one comparison of, do I use my videos the same way that I used journals? I guess I just think like the difference there would be, journals are going to be much more personal than anything that I do here, right? And if I'm gleaning information about my past from them, I'm doing it in a way where it's like, I know what I'm referring to, but if you don't know, if you're not me, you probably don't know what I'm referring to, right? Or maybe you do, right? Maybe I think it's more coded than it actually is. Does that answer your question? I don't know if it actually does or not.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't keep journals as much now as, I mean, when my mum first passed away, I did, and then after my dad died, I did as well. So it was more like, I mean, obviously I'd have to write something down, and I don't have any siblings, so I don't have any brothers or sisters, so it's just I wouldn't say I probably journal as much now as I used to, because I think out of necessity it just isn't something, unless something in particular of note that I'd write down, I'd write it down. But yeah, but it was just interesting because I sometimes do read those back, and it was just something that had popped into my head, a question that I thought, oh, if I ever was on a call-in with Sailor, like I'd ask that question. So I have, and so there you go. I don't know if it was of interest to anyone else, but yeah, it does answer the question. So thank you, I appreciate that.
You in chat this evening, you said something about being old. And I think you misrepresented yourself. Obviously, like I would never ask you how old you are, but yeah, you don't look. You look quite young. So
thanks. Okay, so well, thank you for wishing me a happy birthday, but it's not for another 2 weeks, so my age will change. But I am 40 at the moment, but I will turn 41 in 2 weeks. 2 and a bit weeks.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you say that, but like, I've noticed my body has aged. You know, everything creaks now more so than it used to.
Yeah, no, you definitely don't look 40. But I do. Yeah, although I'm making light of it, right? I definitely do remember, probably around the age 35, I started to notice things just changing, and rarely for the better, right? Like maybe temperamentally for the better, but apart from that, it's just like, yeah, shit is just not working the way that it used to.
Yeah, I don't know, like it's odd because, you know, I have mentioned it before about worrying about what other people think. It is something that I, you know, struggle with, and I have done for quite a long time. And people say, well, as you get older, you care less. In my experience, I don't think that necessarily is true for me. Although for other people, they might find, yeah, well, I don't care now. I'm getting older. It doesn't really matter or whatever. I still think I care more now than I ever did. But again, that's probably just down to me. But it was quite funny because it was about 2 years ago. I had to get my eyes tested, and I had to get varifocals, and that's when I realised I'm like really old, because the optician was like, yes, well, you are now the right age for it. And I'm like, oh, great. I was like, that sounds perfect.
So are you telling me that like you care more now about what other people think than you did when you were like a teenager?
Yeah, I would, or maybe on the same level. So it hasn't decreased. So it's either remained stable or it's maybe increased in some situations, probably.
So interesting comment Alan makes here. I'm thinking like when Stacy's saying she cares more about, I'm thinking about like caring more about what other people think about you, right? Is that what you're referring to? Or are you saying, like Alan here is kind of saying like he cares more as he gets older, but he cares more about, he's not talking about like what people think of him. He's talking about like, I care more about the world. I took what you said as more like you care, like you're more affected by what people say or think about you.
Yeah. So it's more about myself than
Right.
It is about the world. Like I obviously care about what happens in the world. That doesn't really change. But yeah, more about myself. And of course, getting older. I mean, like, I don't know. I think, golly, it'll be 20 years this year since my mother died. Oh, golly, like 20 years, man. Like, where did that go? Like 20 years since she passed away. I was like, oh my days. I was like, that's such a long time.
Yeah, wow.
A really long time. But, and then I remember, yeah, I don't know, like, it just, I suppose it just is for me. I just care more about what people think. I always have. And people say you shouldn't, and I get it. Like, I know the reason why you shouldn't care what other people think. You know, you should be comfortable within your own skin, or you shouldn't care it doesn't really matter what other people think. But we live in a society where it does matter. And I think to say that it doesn't, I think it's a little bit naive, maybe. I don't know. It's been my experience.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to get anything done without other people, right? So if what other people think of you does matter, because you can't do everything yourself, right? So, yeah, I mean, I get that. I definitely feel like I care less as I've gotten older, but I don't, like, where our thresholds are could be completely different, right? Like, I think I cared way too much about what other people thought when I was young. Maybe you just didn't do that, right? Like, and you're kind of staying at the level that everybody else is, or where I am now, right? But yeah, when I was a kid, like, or I guess what other people would say about me had like a really strong effect on me, or could really kind of fuck up my week or my month or my year. And I don't feel like that's as possible now. So is it that level of, like, when you say like it affects you in that way? Is it that extreme?
In terms of how it affects me emotionally?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, but also because, I mean, I was bullied as a child. I mean, who wasn't, to some extent? But I was bullied quite harshly, probably right up until, from when I started school when I was 4, right the way up until I was 16. And then it just kind of stopped. I don't know why it stopped when I was 16, but it did. But I was bullied for my appearance and different things, which don't really need to go into. But yeah, and I think that has a knock-on effect of self-esteem, right? Because you then, your sense of self-worth isn't instilled as a child. Although obviously, apart from my parents, I mean, it's different with my parents, but yeah. So I guess that had an impact, and I still carry that in my adult life. So things that, happened to me as a child, affects me and the way I view things as an adult. But then you can say that about a lot of things. You can say that about all sorts of things like that. But I think it did have an impact on me, definitely. And because I guess I was a bit nerdy and a bit different, and people just thought, kids pick on that, don't they? People that are different, they single them out. And
Yeah, they will seize on anything, like the smallest difference, the smallest, most insignificant difference. And I think that's maybe where that tendency kind of comes, is as some people get older, right? They're able to be like, oh yeah, that, like, literally I remember being so, I used to get like eczema on my elbows, on the inside of my elbows. I remember I would never wear like a short sleeve shirt when I was a kid, because I just didn't want anybody to see that, not because it wasn't like snakeskin or anything like that, right? It was just like some redness and like sometimes some flakiness or whatever. But I was so obsessed with that. Like, I cared so much about making sure that nobody ever saw that. Now it's like, whatever, this shit that is happening on my neck, and I have sunspots. Like, I think maybe it just becomes a matter of perspective, maybe. But the tiny things that people seized on when you were younger to bully you, like, do those things still have the power to affect you now? Or is it different things, bigger things, I guess?
so the main thing that I was bullied about was my appearance, because it's a bit of a long thing, but I was born with a very rare condition. It's really long-winded, but with the details, but and it affected the skin on my face predominantly. So it meant that I stood out quite significantly. There wasn't really anything to be done for it because the nature of it was, I don't know, maybe this is oversharing. Maybe this is too much information. I don't know.
It's up to you. I don't want to pressure you to share anything, but you can.
No. Like, yeah. So anyway, I was bullied. So it was kind of like, I guess you could call it similar to acne in a way. However, it wasn't really that because the dynamics behind it, it's to do with this rare condition I have. And it was on my cheeks, my nose. So of course, because that's my appearance and I couldn't change it because I was born with it, it was part of genetics, I was bullied quite horribly for many years about it, to the extent that I still have issues with my appearance to this day. So it's a bit different now because there are treatments that I have been having now for it, that has improved my life, or my quality of life, better. But I still have a phobia of mirrors, so I don't like looking in the mirror, which just sounds really odd, but it is to do with my appearance and the way I was bullied about how I looked. So I don't tend to look in mirrors, and everyone's going to think I'm really weird now.
No, but that sounds. I mean, that's a trauma response, right? Like that's.
Right.
Like I never, like I don't. I mean, your camera isn't necessarily like super high definition or anything, but like I could not see anything that would indicate to me that there's anything like that going on, right? So, yeah, the treatments are working, right? But whatever, I guess I could see like holding on to that because of the trauma that you suffered when you were younger, that then would make you more susceptible to that kind of thing now, right? Like, or as you said, like as susceptible. Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know like kids are fucking cruel and it seems to happen to everyone. Like I see it happening a little bit to my son, and it throws me into like, the howling fantods wanting to just sort of, like wanting to go scare other kids, right? Like to get them to leave them alone if there's an issue there. But yeah, it seems to be like that happens to a lot of people. I mean, not to say that everybody's experience is the same or that your experience was not worse or more difficult, right? Like, I'm guessing that it was. But yeah, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I'm sorry that it's resonating through to this day. Like that's a lot. And I don't mean to make it sound like you're old, because 40 years is not old, but suffering through that for as long as you have, that is rough.
Yeah. No,
And
I
Olivia
appreciate
does
that.
not think that you're weird at all. I don't think you're weird.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my experience is my experience. And it was interesting the point that you were making about, you'd mentioned about experience, and sorry if I didn't quite hear exactly what you'd said earlier in the stream about experience. And I think Murray did make a point that it was, instead of holding to universal constants, is that kind of the idea, and not personal anecdotal evidence, relying on that rather than on the constant universal things? Is that correct? Is that the point that you were trying to make before?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was trying to apply that to Mr. Beast, right? Like, because I feel like he is taking his personal experience of what he has done and what he has experienced and how he has, in his eyes and in the eyes of a lot of people, like made the world a better place. But rather than using that platform and that influence yet, and he's very young, right? Like, rather than using that influence yet to be a sort of a beacon for illuminating the systemic issues, he's just on some level feels to me like he is exploiting those issues for his own gain. So like, I don't know, like, I don't want to, like, he could easily take that money and just like put it in a bank or get like a super huge house or whatever. And that would be, arguably worse, right? If we're talking, I'm trying to reconcile this with the philosophy of sort of negative utilitarianism, just like wanting to do as little harm as possible. I guess I just see it as a missed opportunity. And my guess, if I were to have to make a guess, would be that at some point in his life, maybe in another decade or something like that, he will have gotten everything he could possibly get out of video making, the fun of it, the feeling that he gets of power from it, right? Or whatever it is that he gets when he does that stuff. And will then turn towards, well, how can I make this more meaningful? I hope. I guess I can't know for sure. But I hope that happens. And so, yeah, when I'm talking about like using your personal anecdotes as evidence of the way things are, I'm talking about like, yeah, people with very specific viewpoints on things who then just don't really stop to kind of step back and look at the system as a whole and see what their actions are doing for, or rather, like that Howard Zinn quote, like you can't be neutral on a moving train. Like you got to pick, you got to pick a side. Like you can't just sit there and be there on the sidelines. If you do nothing, then you're aiding the ruling class. Like in any situation like that, if you're neutral, you are hurting those who are disenfranchised. So, although I don't agree with like the philosophy of Neil Peart, yeah, if you choose not to decide, you've still made a choice, is how he would phrase it. Yeah, that's pretty rambly.
No, it's just interesting because I suppose the way Mr. Beast, that situation, I'm not his target audience at all. I don't watch any of his material. But I did see it pop up on my recommended on YouTube. Don't know why, because it's just not something I would search for. But then the algorithm, it's how I found your content, so maybe I should just be grateful. I don't know. But I am grateful, obviously. But yeah, in terms of this whole thing, I don't know, like, how did he choose those people were going to be the ones that he was going to help? Why those people? I suppose in my mind I was thinking, well, hang on a minute, there's more people that have, that need their sight, or maybe need cochlear implants because they're deaf. Like where do you know what I mean? Like how arbitrary is this? Because what about those people that didn't get that kind of help, or don't have access to be able to get that kind of help? Is there more really he should be held accountable for in that sense? Because yes, he's done a good thing, and I'm not denying that at all. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. However, when I was speaking with Nasha in the chat about what are the motives behind doing something good, because ultimately if the reason you're doing good is to get views or to of some kind of selfish motive, whilst the other party are getting a benefit from that, I think it brings me back to, again, a stream conversation that was being had where I think you quoted from Matthew McConaughey. You did.
No.
You did. Don't play any clips. But which would be terrible. No, it was to do with the journal, because we were writing those 5 things about ourselves that we wish we could change. I don't know if you remember that stream.
Oh yeah, no, I really I enjoyed that.
That was a good that was a good one. And so, it was talking about, Matthew McConaughey's quote was about how if we truly looked at ourselves, we'd like fall in love with ourselves. And your counter argument to that was, well, no, because if you really looked at ourselves, we'd realise we are terrible people. Which I happen to agree with that point. Is that
It's right here.
that right there, yeah. Oh dear me, you're not going to do
When
a
we
reading,
see
are
ourselves
you?
truly, there is an instant attraction.
That's it. That was the phrase, attraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm of the viewpoint that we're not human beings. We fool ourselves into thinking we are good people, and really, on the whole, we're not. Now, I'm not saying that all of humanity is doomed. Although, I mean, maybe it is. It's January, and already the world's we're coming into February. It's February. I know. Maybe. Well, it's my birthday in 2 weeks, so it can't be that bad. But no, I suppose. I guess my point is that I was always taught that maybe you should do good things for people in secret and not shout about it, because don't make a big song and dance, as my mother used to say. If you like, so my mum, for example, I give an example of when I was younger. So my mum had a car, and there was a couple that needed a car for their work, and their car had broken down. And so my mum, I don't know why she did this, but it was wonderful what she did. She gave them our car as a gift, like for free. But she didn't do it like, she didn't announce it. She just invited the couple over, and they were friends of my parents, and let them have the car for free without paying for it, which meant that we didn't have a car, although my mum was the only one who could drive. My father never drove a car ever, so my dad never drove. But yeah, so but my point being is that that was still a good thing. Now, would it have been different if my mother had written to the local newspaper and said she'd done that? Would it have detracted from the good thing? No, but then what does it reflect upon my mum? I don't know. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh wait,
that was my
now I'm getting an echo.
Sorry, that's my headphones. Sorry.
Did they just run out of battery?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
They did. Sorry.
Do you have? Hold on a second. Do you have earbuds or anything that you could plug in? Because the problem is, like, I hear my voice just as loud, like kind of coming back at me about a second or two later.
Sorry, I don't, unfortunately.
I'm sorry. Can you control can you turn the volume of my voice down as low as you can and still hear it? Maybe that'll do it.
Let's just try this. Is that any better at all?
Let's see. I think
is that better?
Yeah, I think that's acceptable. Yes, I can still hear. Yeah, that's much better. Much better.
Sorry. My apologies there.
No.
Didn't realise I was running low on my headset. Yeah, I guess would it detract from the good thing? I guess my argument there. I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't detract from the good thing. I guess and I'm sort of like bringing this back to Elon Musk too, right? Like, there's, Elon Musk purportedly reached out to the World Poverty Organization, or I forget which organization it was, and told them if they could find a way for him to end world hunger for $40 billion, that he would happily do it. But they weren't able to do that, apparently. So, he bought Twitter instead, right? So I just think like this is like the problem, and it's an exploitative problem because arguably, if there was a universal basic income and we had universal health care in the United States, a lot of Mr. Beast's videos would have much less impact, or he would have to find something different, right? Because if your hook is taking people who are in a financially desperate situation and elevating yourself by bringing them out of that situation, you need to have people in financially desperate situations. I wonder how Mr. Beast would vote, right? Like if he looks at political issues and is like, ooh, if this happens, then this means that I'm not going to be able to make these kind of videos anymore, or it's going to reduce my appeal because, there won't be as many people in this situation, or the delta between like where they start and where I drop them off isn't going to be as big, and therefore, I won't get the fanfare that I got before. So I don't know. It feels like there's a bunch of ethically dubious things around the way. But again, I don't want to throw too much shade on him. Like personally, it's just like use that, like illuminate those issues for the world. Like you have a reach like nobody else, right? And I definitely believe that if you have a platform, you also have an obligation to use that platform. As I said before, right? If you don't use it, then you are helping the aggressor or helping the you're helping the ruling class.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like if you have the resources and the avenue whereby you can have a greater influence, like you say, to eliminate suffering, because purely that's what this is. You're eliminating suffering by giving people back their sight, which would have caused them suffering in the first place, obviously, to an extent. Yeah. So I think if you have that opportunity, I wouldn't say it was an obligation, because we do have a choice in a sense. Again, that's another question, because that, again, it goes off on a tangent, because you could end up going down that rabbit hole, and then it gets even more like you end up going further more into more questions. But I suppose that's the nature of discourse anyway in these matters. But yeah, I don't think what he did was a bad thing, and I agree that he did a good thing. However, it didn't sit right with me when I heard about it. Something just didn't sit right, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And I certainly can't do that at this time in the morning. Yeah, but yeah, don't know. I don't know. Like, I guess, as I say, people should use their power for good, but so many use it for not so good things, as we know already from politicians, world leaders, billionaires, clinical psychologists. I'm not naming any names.
But so I feel like the solution there is not for billionaires to become better people, but just for there not to be such consolidations of such grotesque consolidations of wealth. And yeah, I definitely would say like redistribution, like on some level, right? Redistribution of wealth is would be a good thing. Certainly in America. I'm completely ignorant when it comes to I'm ignorant to most of what happens in America, but the only thing I can speak on with any sort of knowledge at all is the U.S. I guess the UK is not that much different.
Because you live there. I would
Right.
be worried if you didn't know anything at all about the country you lived in.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
that would be a bit strange.
And the U.S. is pretty grotesque when it comes to displays of obscene wealth.
I just briefly, I studied U.S. history for my degree, so I know a bit about, American politics. And I did, for my degree dissertation, I did McCarthyism from the 1950s. And my question on my paper was, to what extent was domestic anti-communism unconstitutional? So I got to read up a lot about that, which was quite fun. I enjoyed doing that. That was a long time ago, obviously, about 20 years since I graduated uni now, nearly. So it was
why did you choose American history?
Well, I always enjoyed history. It was always a favourite subject of mine. For years, I always loved going to museums as a child, and also, I guess, because I watched a lot of American TV shows growing up, and I was fascinated by America. I guess I always wanted to move there, like from when I was 17, and I researched every way I could to try and move over to the US.
Oh,
but it's not easy to do. So even back then, when I was researching it,
nor is it desirable, really.
Well, I mean, I wonder now if if I had that opportunity, whether I feel the same way, whether I would do it. I don't know. I don't know. I've been to America many times on holiday, but I think I was just fascinated because your country is younger than mine. So it's just a lot younger, and it's just interesting to see how a younger country has grown and at what point its development is now compared to my country, the UK or England, that has had a history that predates America, or what we know as America, by a significant period of time. And also obviously foreign policy, looking at foreign policy as well, and economic history. It's just really interesting to me, and so I chose modules purely based upon American subjects. So I just really found it very fascinating, and also about the presidents as well. How your government is run is different to obviously how our government is run.
Right.
Because you have obviously a presidency, and we have a constitutional monarchy. Although it wasn't always the case, just a constitutional monarchy. We had a proper monarchy, but now it's just constitutional. But yeah, it's just interesting how you got your independence, and I had many arguments with Americans about that, and you have a pride that you beat us in the War of Independence. I don't know if that is still a thing that resonates nowadays. You beat the island. You beat the island with in King George.
What, have you seen Hamilton?
Actually, I hear a lot about it, but I haven't seen it. So I probably should see it, to be fair.
That's good.
It's good. I hear a lot about it. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing my degree. It was one of my... I did my degree whilst my mum was ill at the same time, so it was kind of like I managed to graduate, but she'd passed away before that, so she died probably 4 or 5 months before I finished my degree and got my graduation, so that's a bit of a shame.
It's terrible.
But so it was an achievement for me, at least.
Right.
So I'm proud of it. And I was the first person on both sides of my family generationally to go to university. No one else had a degree. So I was like, okay, I'll take that as well. That's my claim to fame, probably.
Well, I mean that's not insignificant, rather that's extremely significant. And, congratulations on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. I've been really enjoyed talking to you, Stacy. I'm gonna wrap it up, I think, 'cause and it's late where you are. It's getting late for me too.
I appreciate you letting me come on, and I hope maybe I'll get another opportunity to come on and talk again. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, when you said you were waiting 4 months, I'm not. What was the waiting for? What was it? Just like it just didn't work out?
Well, okay. Well, No, because all the live streams I was at, you weren't doing. The last one that I did try and do, which, I mean, the last actual live stream I was at was episode number 86. And that was one where I did email him, but I was too late. And I wasn't able to. And then, obviously, just for different reasons, there hasn't been any since. And I wasn't aware that what the etiquette was on it. So I didn't know if I could just email in and ask for the link at any time during a live stream, or if it had to be when you said you wanted to do it. So that's why I wasn't sure. I didn't know how it worked, being a newbie, I guess.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can always ask, right? Like, I don't, it's always just going to, yeah, I mean, you are sort of, unfortunately, like, I'm a pretty moody person, right? Just like sometimes I will just want to be talking about something. And also, like, sometimes I'm not set up in order for me to do this, I need to have, like, the way I'm doing it right now is less than ideal because I have to have like one earpiece out. I'm hearing your voice slightly delayed. I'm keeping it as low as I possibly can so it doesn't echo. So it's just I'm not really set up to do interviews. So it really just depends on mood. But yeah, I mean, always ask, right? Yeah. And I mean, I feel like if you had like some very specific things to talk about, which I think is awesome, right? Like, and that's generally what I'm, I guess, looking for, right? Is because if I have to supply the things to talk about, then it becomes, it's become more difficult for me. I'm trying to get people to do my work for me.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay, well, I hope you have a good night, Stacy, and thank you for calling in. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, you too. You take care now.
All right, take care. I'm shocked that ended up working. I really am. I thought something would go wrong. But that was great. I enjoy that. I think I haven't done call-ins in a bit. Yeah, so anyway, it's at least my third or fourth anyway. It's been 2.5 hours roughly. I'm going to call it for the night. I don't really know what to say about scheduling for future ones of these. I had other stuff I wanted to talk about tonight, but I am a little too tired to get into GPT stuff. I'll just give it short shrift, and I don't want to do that either. Good night, Lisa. No, thank you, Stacy. And night, Lexi. And I think I will be streaming next week, but I'm going to be spending some time away from DC, Northern Virginia, and when I'm not here, I don't think I will be able to stream, so it might just be kind of hit and miss for a while I figure things out. So bear with me. I am going to continue doing what I can here. I know I talked about like moving stuff to the other channel, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, whatever, man. I'm going to go back. I'm wishy-washy. What can I say? Good night, Holofox. Good night, everybody. And I'll talk to y'all later.